to make a story great?
It's all about your technique.
Well, let's talk to you real quick about that mindset.
A camera and a microphone would help.
Depends on who you ask, but I think it starts with a great shot. Well, you need at least this number of shots.
Each story needs to have a purpose, a reason, a theme, a why. If you don't have that, and you don't have a story.
We look for something to connect to. You've got to have a character, someone that your audience is going to relate to and get invested in.
That character is going to drive your story and take your viewers on a journey to that place and point in time. You got to have some idea of what you think the story is going to be to start with, but you also have to be flexible enough to change with it, because all our great plans go out the window. Usually on the first interview we'll find out it's not exactly what we thought it is, and sometimes it's better and sometimes it's not as good.
Sometimes we have to narrow down the story to whatever that person is doing or whatever that person's goal is for the story.
A viewer should be able to tell what your story is simply by looking at the video without hearing any sound whatsoever.
I love natural sound. I love nat sound breaks as long as they're not overdone.
The viewer should also be able to understand your story just by listening to the sound or the audio.
That's the door being knocked in by the firefighters, or the hood being shut on the thing, and I look at it as like punctuation marks to a sentence that either the reporter just gave you or maybe even the soundbite.
When you combine the pictures and the audio together, you're perfect. You can't get any better than that.
That character has to face some kind of a conflict. There's got to be something that kind of gives you a little bit of what's going to happen with this character.
Some of the biggest obstacles I have to deal with at times doing this job is the deadline. There's a constant deadline, it seems, every 2 hours.
It gets back to that deadline too. You know, if you got time to edit, it's going to look a lot better. But if I've got 15 minutes to get this story together, then it's probably not going to look as nice as it could. That's where the pictures come in.
A reveal, or more than one reveal, there have to be little moments within that story that hit you. Whether it's, you know, your character, you know, finding some kind of a surprise, or having a moment with someone, some kind of little part in the story that grabs you, surprises you, makes you laugh, makes you cry, some twist in the story.
Analogies, sometimes little hidden surprises throughout.
It gets pretty crazy sometimes, and it gets pretty difficult.
Some people might tell a story one way, and I might tell it another way, but you really can't go wrong.
There's got to be an ending to the story, and the ending doesn't necessarily have to tie up all the loose ends. Maybe your story doesn't have a nice, neat ending, but it's got to have some close to it.
On most streets, you can probably find some kind of construction.
You can see people looking out their windows, trying to see what it is.
It's behind a house that sits along Tate's Creek, across from Morton Middle School. But just because it's behind a house doesn't mean you can't see it.
I think it's just the size that gets everybody.
Lee Chapman rents the house that's getting a big steel addition.
It's a conversation starter, that's for sure.
I'm going to charge $25 from now on, I've decided.
And a conversation is just what you'll get with the man who's building it.
While I was laying there, I said, gee, you know, I always wanted my Ferrari. Now I got money sitting in the bank and no kids and no wife. I'm glad I got a haircut today, aren't I? Yeah. Nothing to do. Well, I'll just buy one.
And one,
and that's how it started,
eventually turned into 38 cars.
No, we're not going to run that one.
Mostly Ferraris and Maseratis.
No, I just like Italian cars. I like Italian women.
After Mitchell Barnes sold his business and a warehouse where he kept his cars, his plans for this backyard started taking shape.
It's all something I dreamt up.
These are the plans for what is shaping into a garage for 34 of his 38 cars, with a glass house attached to the back.
Why so much for a garage?
Because I want it.
He took us to see it, not in one of his Italian cars, but
it's a Toyota, because it starts all the time. If you want to walk next door across that path, and you can see Pete Townsend's Ferrari in there.
He showed us the 5-ton doors.
They're aircraft hangar doors.
Meant to open to what he pictures as a dining hall in a castle. marble floors and solid chestnut beams.
Once you get to the end of the garage, you have a clash of modern.
He says he'll live in the glass house right next to his cars.
Glass is 2.5 inches thick. It's missile-proof.
The entire project, 4,600 square feet, is attached to this 1,500 square foot home.
Anyway, it's legal, 100%.
That's a different style of development.
Jonathan Hollinger with Lexington Planning and Zoning says the area of Barnes's development has few restrictions in regard to what you can build.
Within that box, you can build 35 feet tall, and there's really no other restriction on the property.
This is the building permit for the garage. Hollinger says it was properly reviewed and approved by the Division of Planning.
I could put this out on a lake somewhere, but Starbucks I'd have to drive too far, you know.
He did go through all the proper channels. It was professionally designed and got his permits well before he started work.
It is unusual, he admits, for a steel structure to plant here where boards and bricks are more common.
No, I think we've gotten a few calls, mainly just asking what it is.
That's fitting. Just as his cars draw attention, so does the place he's building to house them. All by design.
When's it supposed to be done?
That's a good question.
The feeling you get when you tell a great story is very difficult to describe. On one side, you're extremely humble because you've been given this great opportunity by someone to tell their story. Many times they've never told this story to anyone.
There's a saying here in news, you're only as good as your last story. And so I try not to get too caught up in any one story because that story is going to pass and you're going to be working on another story the next day. But for a couple hours after that story airs, it feels pretty good. Stand by.
Yeah, if you need to do your thing.
Hey, Sean. Upstairs shooting this behind the lens thing with Bart. What's up?
I used to love snow. Didn't mind rain. Thunderstorms, yeah. I roll my eyes and I shake my head because I know it's like I'm going to be out in it. I used to love snow. Didn't mind rain. Thunderstorms, yeah. I roll my eyes and I shake my head because I know it's like I'm going to be out in it.
We can get ourselves dressed up usually warm enough and dry enough to survive most things, but these little cameras are they don't like the weather as much as or can't handle the weather as much as well as we can.
You have to keep your gear, you know, protected so you can use it. That's the biggest thing, because, you know, if you don't have gear to use, then you can't, you know, bring the story to the viewer.
I've had to go without a camera for a while because of the weather.
I've become pretty good at layering clothes and working with gloves on and that sort of thing.
I hate wool. It's itchy.
This past winter, you had to take a real long look at what you were doing in life.
Driving around with snow shovels in the back of our news cars, and when we would do our day turn stories, we would usually have to dig ourselves out.
It was terrible. It really was terrible, but I also remember how a lot of people sort of banded together. I remember a lot of good stories about people who ended up getting sort of trapped down their streets.
That night I got video of a lady whose car was stuck and it was spinning out, so I got video of it. And then she looked at me and she said, "Are you going to help me?" So as soon as I was done shooting the video, I put my camera up and went and helped her push out. So there was a lot of that of us, or people helping us. I got stuck on the side of the road and a guy came over and he pulled and helped push me out. So that was a tough day, but I think people appreciated just seeing what was out there and seeing what they were going to be dealing with once they got out on the road.
When you're dealing with weather, you're fighting a beast that you can't win against.
It was one to remember, and it's one I hope we don't repeat anytime soon because it was cold.
Being out in it just gives me a whole new perspective, and that's why I love being able to talk about the weather on air and then to be out in it. That way the next time I'm forecasting for that kind of event, I can harken back to that time and say, okay, that's what it was like being outside in this.
Back in the summer when there was some serious flooding that hit Johnson County, a lot of us had assignments to go do there.
I'd driven along that road numerous times and it was gone. I mean, all the houses that were set up there were wiped out, and those were people's homes. That a lot of people had barns and other type of things around there. I mean, that's where they worked. They've been there for decades. A lot of families lived along there for their whole lives.
Going to sleep that previous night, I'm like, I'm probably going to Eastern Kentucky the next day. What do you know? Wake up and all over Facebook are videos of mobile homes floating down the street.
That image of that home slamming against that cement wall, you just can't imagine the heartbreak that people feel when they see that.
I mean, I'd never seen anything like that before, let alone to hear someone at work say, that's where you're going today.
We have a helicopter that we use. I remember seeing 5 or 6 mobile homes all just kind of balled up on one another along a tree line with cars. There was one where there was a car mixed into this ball of destruction.
Whew, I mean, it legitimately looked like a bomb had gone off. I mean, a truck at one point, I remember looking off in the distance, and a truck was just on its side, just as if someone had just picked it up and threw it across the mobile home park where I was. Not to mention there's all of these people that live there, walking around, picking up the pieces of their lives. That'll stick with me, I think, for the rest of my life, knowing anytime I'm forecasting any kind of event like that.
He told me, he said, Dad, I stopped in to help you.
Kevin Johnson hasn't seen his son Scott since Monday, the night of the flood.
You know, the water swept me off my feet, and my brother swept him off his feet, and Scott, he went on and he looked back at us and he said, I'm getting my nana out of the trailer.
Johnson says Scott did get his nana and a child out of the trailer, but that's when he ran into trouble.
He caught on to a little tree there, and they said he hung there for probably 10, 15, 20 minutes, I'm not sure, and he was doing good, hanging on to him.
While they were hanging on, Johnson says his trailer broke loose, sweeping straight toward them.
He was going to stay with them to the end, and he did. They found my mother probably 3 miles from where that happened.
The child was rescued that night. Johnson's mother, Willa Mae Pennington, was found dead on Tuesday. Scott is still missing.
I want to find him. I keep hoping for God to show me a miracle and find him alive, but I realize that probably ain't going to happen.
Those are the tough ones to cover because they know that the outcome's probably not going to be great. We probably know the outcome's not going to be that great. And those are the tough stories when the people are hurting, and you can feel that, you can see that. And it's not an easy thing to, it's not always an easy thing to cover.
That was the place I worked for 2 years. I know Johnson County well, I know the people there well, so when I saw what was happening there, I obviously wanted to get down there, and I was able to find the stories about the community coming together and helping each other.
In any bad situation that I can ever remember covering, there was almost more good that happened after that because of communities and friends and family and whatever just stepping up to help out in situations like that. That's a neat thing to see.
You go there just thinking everybody's just going to be just devastated, but that couldn't be farther away from the truth. Everybody was helping. I mean, there was lines out the door with people trying to give supplies, people trying to give food, just whatever they could give, stuff that they didn't even have.
They were 2 weeks away, roughly, from the start of school. And the folks at that high school, at Johnson County High School, within a matter of hours, had that as a distribution center going.
It was unbelievable to see in that high school cafeteria in the hours after the flooding, that cafeteria just filled to the brim with donations. A lot of them were local, but a lot of them were coming from other places around the state. And our ability to get those images out as fast as we can, I think really can help in situations like that.
The one thing I'll take from all that coverage that we did is just, you know, how people step up when people are in need.
And I've always done this. When I arrived that day and I know that I'm the guy shooting that video, I make a promise to myself that I'm going to do the best I can. Because if they died for us, trying to protect us or save us, they deserve the best that I can do. The world is not the fuzzy, happy place it can be all the time. But that doesn't mean that you as a person can't be a decent, caring person.
The emergency service personnel, period, and it's been a real tough year hearing about what they go through and what's happened to them.
We've had to cover, police officers' deaths this year and an EMT worker.
It's just been tough covering it. Like you say, you do get tired of the lines. It's like, why does this happen?
You have to have compassion behind the story. These are real people, as one person said. It's not television. These are actual people with actual feelings.
208 to all emergency personnel. Our hero, Unit 415 with the Essex County Fire Department, has now entered his home county. We ask that all units stand at attention as he passes.
And you're just thinking about their families because you see the pictures of their families and you go to the memorial services and you see everybody showing their support and you're like, man, why did this have to happen? It didn't have to happen.
John Mackey's brother and sons were among the family that spoke today in a service that they said the 40-year-old paramedic would have been proud of. And even in his death, they said he was having the last laugh, especially because he was an organ donor.
I especially love that he was able to donate an eye, a single eye. I see this as John's last joke, as I imagine it going to someone who must have recently heard his mother yelling out, "Don't do that, you'll put your eye out."
John Mackey's brothers in the emergency medical service field also spoke, and before the services, they said Mackey would have enjoyed all this attention given to him.
He would want to be remembered as a jovial, honest, compassionate, and a truthful guy.
You're telling a story that's not just words, it's people's lives.
To see the lives put on the line and just the number of tragedies we've seen here in our area, you have to respect the sacrifice and what they do.
Hundreds of fellow officers, deputies, and first responders came here to Camp Nelson to lay Officer Burke Rhodes to rest. 100 silenced sirens escorted Officer Rhodes' remains to Camp Nelson National Cemetery. Bagpipes carried him home. Standing behind Officer Rhodes' family during his burial ceremony were the men and women who worked together and mourned together. Law enforcement arrived from Madison County and Marshall County, from Hazard and Hopkinsville, Lexington and Louisville. The men and women who cover campuses and counties cover each other. They share the sadness of losing one of their own. Officer Rhodes served with the Nicholasville Police Department for 8 years. In Jessamine County, Kristen Kennedy, WKYT.
I've shot this for almost 25 years, and that amount of time I've covered a lot of funerals. It's just what we have to do, from soldier funerals to police officer funerals, firefighter funerals. And I've always done this. When I arrive that day and I know that I'm the guy shooting that video, I make a promise to myself that I'm going to do the best I can. Because if they died for us, trying to protect us or save us, they deserve the best that I can do. It's just kind of hard to think about people doing something that they love, and they're doing it for the public, and they lose their life over it. They deserve the respect.
We had Officer Ellis this past year in Richmond, Officer Daniel Ellis. I was at the hospital the day he was shot.
And that was difficult for me because when he was shot, I was in court in Madison County covering a case around 11 a.m.
I think that was the 4th law enforcement funeral I had covered. I covered this year.
When we came back from recess, the judge looked at all the officers in the courtroom, and we had I'd say about 10 officers or so in the courtroom, and he said to all the officers, "You are free to go no matter what your commitments are."
To see so many people coming in and out of the hospital, so many law enforcement officers, so many first responders, to see them coming in and out, obviously affected by what was going on, was it's tough to see.
One of the biggest stories that had an impact was the night that Officer Daniel Ellis died at UK Hospital, and the motorcade that followed afterward. There was definitely such a heavy mood because you knew why you were there and knew the situation.
When things happen in those cases, it does affect you, but you have to still be able, as regardless of what you feel, you have to be able to put that aside and do your job. And that doesn't mean you don't take things home with you, but you do your best not to let it affect you too much, but you know, you're only human.
You can't help but have a couple of tears when you see thousands of people with banners, flags, all lining the streets. A busy day, there are other things going on, but all these people took the time out of their day to stand there on the side of Lexington Road in Richmond and watch 45 minutes worth of people pass by in that funeral procession, knowing that they're all there to pay their respects to someone who protected their community.
No, I've been here 2 or 3 times. It's just something that'll keep you on your back.
John Willis got to the Richmond Police Department early. He and his wife Edna spent a few minutes taking in the sight of Officer Daniel Ellis's cruiser, smothered with flowers, balloons, and notes.
Makes you want to just cry and scream at the same time.
As the morning went on, more and more people showed up. They dropped off mementos, and the thousands got into position. There were hundreds of police vehicles from all over the state and beyond. It seemed to take forever to get to the police department, but no one seemed impatient. They seemed to want to send love to every car that passed.
Well, it's just very important, and it's very emotional. I think just seeing people and that they care enough to do this, it just makes me, renews my hope.
You know, it's still nice to come together as a community and, you know, focus and show support to one another.
Then Officer Ellis's hearse arrived, flanked by officers on motorcycles. It pulled up right in front of the police department and stopped, letting Officer Ellis spend just a few more moments at his post before continuing his final journey. In Richmond, Sean Moody, WKYT.
When you stop back and think about it, it's nice if we get to you know, mark that in history with our little story we might do. But what's even better is that those people were going to do that whether we were there or not. And that's just kind of, that's a human spirit that just makes you proud to get to see.
When the Supreme Court decision came down, none of us knew what was coming down the pipeline for us as far as coverage went. Certainly none of us expected the spotlight to be on Moorhead. It was something to watch unfold.
I think there's a feeling, an adrenaline rush, if you will, on certain stories, certain assignments, and you know that what you're doing that day has tremendous meaning. It's going to impact people's lives.
The Rowan County Clerk coverage, Kim Davis.
That became a national issue.
That original case, I remember whenever it was in Cincinnati, those 2 men, I met them and talked to them, and at that point we didn't realize just how much bigger it was going to be, but we knew at that point that it could potentially affect the entire country, and it did in fact end up impacting the entire country.
When the Supreme Court decision came down, none of us knew what was coming down the pipeline for us as far as coverage went. Certainly none of us expected the spotlight to be on Moorhead. It was something to watch unfold.
I remember we were doing, you know, live shots as everything was happening, pretty much every cut-in, so about every 30 minutes. And in between that, I was getting phone calls to do different satellite radio interviews, cutting packages for CBS This Morning.
I think networks want it because we can get the video to them quick, and on a big enough story, they're going to be there as well anyway. So, but when you look at our staff, you know, one-man bands or our videographers, you know, we stack up with anybody.
It was every day, Rowan County, every day, huge groups of people. It was very controversial. You're getting people yelling from both sides of the story, so it was really intense. Every day you went to cover something like that.
When you have just this mass of media, it's kind of overwhelming. You still get the job done, but you look around and you're like, man, that's a lot of cameras around here.
I worked a 17-hour day when she was in court, and that was the day that she was jailed.
I think we like that stress, and we really feel a sense of achievement when we do make our deadline and get the story done.
You almost get addicted to it because there is a rush in being at a big story, and there is a rush in trying to make the best that you can out of whatever you've got that day.
Being able to be that voice and telling people this is what's going on, this is what's happening, this is the latest, that was probably the biggest story I've covered.
The protest quickly turned into a shouting match as groups went head-to-head over Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis's refusal to issue same-sex marriage licenses.
There were hundreds of protesters against them and shouting at them, calling them vile and abominations.
Some people spit and stomped on flags, others chanted, and a few kept to themselves and let their signs do the talking. Davis's refusal to issue same-sex marriage licenses based on her belief that God-ordained marriage to be between a man and a woman is sparking outrage.
It is law now that it has been passed that we are allowed to marry whoever. She needs to do her job. She's an elected official.
Others who share Davis's faith say this matter will ultimately be decided in a higher court.
The God that we serve is greater than the Supreme Court.
The judge's decision to hold Davis in contempt and jail her leaves many with hands in the air and others with knees to the ground.
One of the craziest days, I think, of the whole thing was when the judge ordered her to jail, and we just, fanned out.
I was there in the courtroom whenever she was taken into custody. That was a big moment. That was a national story. So being right there for that is also a story that a lot of people cared about one way or the other. And you kind of know when you're reporting a story like that there are going to be people, regardless of what you say, who are going to be unhappy. So you just do your best to be truthful with that and kind of present that as you saw it.
There were days where I would go to Carter County, and then I would have to go back to Moorhead, and sometimes make that shuttle a couple times. There were several of us doing that, but just about every day there was something going on at the courthouse.
They came from across the country, flocking to Carter County.
So I took a 7-hour trip and I came here, and I'm happy that I came here.
For many, it was a pilgrimage to support their sister in Christ.
We came because of the call of Christ that this woman is standing for.
She got a rock star's welcome, taking the stage to thunderous applause and Eye of the Tiger. Once on stage,
thank you all so much.
A clearly emotional Davis composed herself, then thanked everyone for their support and prayers.
You are a strong people. We serve a living God who knows exactly where each and every one of us is at. Just keep on pressing. Don't let down, because He is here. And He's worthy, He's worthy.
I am willing to spend the next 8 years in the White House leading this country, but I want you to know I'm willing to spend the next 8 years in jail, but I'm not willing to spend one day under the tyranny of people who believe they can take our freedom and conscience away.
Sometimes it was quite a scene, and anyone who, stop at a gas station, stop and grab a bite to eat, everyone in town knows what you're there for.
Going into the Kentucky Derby, I don't think anybody thought that American Pharoah would be as dominant as he was. He turns out, to be the first Triple Crown winner in 38 years.
As a sports reporter, you want to be at a place where people care about their sports. And that certainly is the case in Kentucky, where sports matter not only in the last block of the newscast, but sports matter in the first block of the newscast as well.
There's plenty of negative news that comes along with living in this state, living in this area. But the good news for a lot of people, it seems like, is that Kentucky continuously puts out a great product on the basketball court.
My roots are in the high school level and the small college level.
We like to cover our other schools around this area, from Eastern Kentucky to Morehead State, Georgetown, Transy, Kentucky State, and all those in and throughout.
You don't know who you're covering. Why are you doing it? It's not just a job. I hate that when people say, well, it's my job. It should be your passion to get to know the kids.
Really, when you come down to it, those are all important schools. They really are. But Kentucky, the University of Kentucky, is what kind of moves the needle. So we do focus a lot of our attention on UK.
When I was younger, I got excited about everything. But as I get older, I'm kind of like Vince Scully, what he used to say. He goes, I take my time with things. I put them in proper perspective. It was tough not to get excited about UK.
This past basketball season was quite the unique season, and all that 40-0 talk started way early before the season ever began, and those expectations and the weight of the world was really placed on that group of Wildcats. And
when they go 38-0 and make it all the way to the Final Four and end up losing that last game to go 38-1 against Wisconsin, when everybody kind of thought they would, they would make it to the championship game, setting up a huge match with Duke, but it didn't work out.
To see them sustain that and carry that and stay unbeaten all the way to the Final Four was just amazing, because I thought they would at least lose once or maybe twice leading up to the tournament and then make their run. And there are those who have said that maybe they should have lost once or twice, and that would have made it somewhat easier. We'll never know that. But we do know that covering a team that won its first 38 games, that's never been done before.
When you take Kentucky basketball flirting with an undefeated perfect season that would have been the first one that we've seen in almost 40 years, and American Pharoah, who lost only one time, almost could have swept every single race of them this year, but still won a Triple Crown. It brought a sense of purpose to, it escalated everybody's game.
Going into the Kentucky Derby, I don't think anybody thought that American Pharoah would be as dominant as he was.
The Triple Crown is as big as it gets for the sport of horse racing, and some were even questioning would it even ever happen again.
He turns out to be the first Triple Crown winner in 38 years, and as someone who got to cover him a couple of times and watch the other two races of the Triple Crown, it was thrilling, no question.
They delayed the start of the baseball championship game, the high school baseball state championship, so we could watch the Triple Crown. And I was the PA announcer, so as soon as he crossed the finish line as the Triple Crown winner, I mean, the place was electric for a state championship because of that horse. Then winning the Breeders' Cup.
And of course, Keeneland hosting the Breeders' Cup for the first time, which was just, an incredible event for the city of Lexington and for the state of Kentucky.
One of those things that I'm going to look back, because who knows how long, again, till we have another Triple Crown winner.
A chilly rain and an army of photographers greeted American Pharoah at the Lexington airport, more attention than a lot of other celebrities arriving in the Bluegrass have attracted. He and 15 other horses rode the transport van across the street to the barns on Rice Road, where an even bigger crowd awaited. And at about 4:15 p.m., the only Triple Crown winner in racing history slated to challenge in the Breeders' Cup stepped off the truck.
I'm sure when the cold air hit him, he probably loved that too. Horses love that. But, after his work, he had a sharp work yesterday, so I thought it'd probably wake him up a little bit. But he's been pretty sharp. Last couple of weeks he's been really happy, and so he looks great.
American Pharoah moved into his new digs with no complications or fanfare. That's what awaits him on Saturday when he tries to complete racing's first Grand Slam, the Triple Crown and the Classic.
He knows it's a short time. Right now, winning the Derby, we want it for the Zayats. I just want to be selfish. We want it for us. Winning the Triple Crown, I wanted it for the fans, for the sport. I want him to win that unbelievable race for Pharoah. Just to go out in a way that we always remember him as a brilliant, kind horse.
Whatever happens on Saturday, it'll be his final race. American Pharoah is retiring to stud the moment he hits the finish line.
Most thoroughbreds are a little high maintenance, but this horse was very sweet and very gentle, and it just kind of made for an incredible story that was good for Kentucky, good for us, and good for horse racing.
In this position, we get to do things that most people never get to do in their whole lives.
in this position, we get to do things that most people never get to do in their whole lives.
Over the years, I've covered so many different things. It's hard to pin down one thing that really sticks out or two things that stick out.
Covering President Obama in northern Kentucky, in Cincinnati.
The storm last year was probably maybe the biggest thing I covered, especially making my on-air debut, giving live reports from the road.
Sure, there's not too many times you could say you could cover it. You've covered a sitting president in local TV.
A couple of years ago, I got to go to Oklahoma and cover tornado damage.
Whew. You name it, I've probably met it. So I just remember the security, all the security around a sitting president doing a speech in an outdoor area with the interstate behind him.
The Final Four, got to see some of the same big name people, the ESPN actual anchors out there. It was real exciting to see them.
The NFL draft was a completely new experience. I had never covered anything like that. It was held in Chicago this past year for the first time in quite a few years. It's been in New York for quite some time, but it was held in Chicago. Kentucky had a first rounder, Bud Dupree, selected by the Pittsburgh Steelers in the first round.
Religious leaders, government leaders, clergy, from the Dalai Lama to the Queen of England.
There's a couple trips years ago. I went to Ecuador with a bunch of volunteer doctors and nurses and surgeons, and they did a lot of free surgeries, anything from heart to neurosurgery and even plastic surgery.
One of the things that stuck out in my mind is that I was there for UK's first heart transplant, and I was privileged enough to be the pool camera shooter, and I got to witness that and record that. That was fascinating. And frankly, after I saw that, that made me feel a lot better about having surgery myself.
My favorite memory in this career has been the Ryder Cup at Valhalla in Louisville. And the event was just unlike anything I think I've ever covered, in that it was everything that golf wasn't supposed to be. You had fans from all over the globe ascend on Louisville and cheering, jeering. They were loud, they were boisterous, they were having fun, and it just made for a fun event.
Thunder over Louisville, the Blue Angels came to town, the U.S. Navy Blue Angels, and I got selected to be one of the people who rode along in their C-130, Fat Albert.
Been able to go to a pair of NBA drafts, and both times a Kentucky Wildcat has been chosen as the #1 overall pick.
Well, friends ask me, they're like, what's it like, going to the football game, going to the Breeders' Cup, and trying to explain it to them and tell them exactly what I do. We're not there to watch these things. We're there to do a job.
Going with Sam Dick to cover the Katrina stuff a couple different times, and we focus mostly on Kentucky volunteers going down there, people from here that were going to help out the folks there, and I enjoyed that. That's something I'll never forget.
The plane crash, 5191. I was out there that morning. I was working as a photographer at that time, so that definitely stuck with me, watching all the stories that happened as a result of that.
Having the opportunity to interview survivors of the 1939 flood was easily one of the most compelling pieces that I got to have my hands on.
Sometimes the bigger stories to me were the quiet stories that maybe nobody else really paid a whole lot of attention to, but because of what I did with that story, we started getting phone calls at a station saying, hey, I want to help those people, or we get a charity calling up and going, hey, we just saw that on your air, we can help those people. Those are the stories that I actually look back on probably more so and think that's the bigger story, because it actually probably made a bigger impact on some individual's life.
Sometimes the families don't even know these stories, and in this case, some of the people that we were interviewing, they're 92 years old, and they've never explained to their family what happened during the flash flood and how they survived it, and seeing the people that they lost. They opened up to me, a camera guy, before they did their family.
I've met several presidents, I've met several presidential candidates, I've met celebrities over the years.
And some of the things that I've gotten to see working behind this camera, those are the kinds of experiences that you only get to have having a job like this.
I got to sit with Karl Anthony Towns for a half an hour after he got drafted. And the conversation we had after we did our interview was one of the things I will never forget. He was so excited, and he said, "Brian, what do I do now?" And I said, "I don't know. I've never been drafted #1 in the NBA."
But on the cool factor, I've had the opportunity to go to the CMAs. So I got to see a lot of country musicians.
I found out one thing about most of those people. They ain't nowhere any different than we are. I have yet to meet one that I've walked away and went, okay, that person is like somebody superhuman. I've usually walked away and, wow, that's a pretty cool person.
On those days when it's not great, it's terrible, but the story still matters. And being able to give that information to people in a community, I think that's something that really matters, and I think that's what keeps me in it, and I think that's what keeps other great journalists in it as well.
Why do I still do this? That's a question that gets asked more often than you would think. I've asked myself that question on more than one occasion, on a more than one story, at more than one scene.
Every day I wake up, it's a new day. So if it's a new day, it's a new challenge. So if it's a new challenge, it's something that's going to keep you motivated to do something new and to learn something new every day.
I think right now I'm so young and haven't been in it very long. It still is very exciting to me.
No 2 days are the same.
On those days when it's not great, it's terrible, but the story still matters. And being able to give that information to people in a community, I think that's something that really matters, and I think that's what keeps me in it, and I think that's what keeps other great journalists in it as well.
It really makes me happy to tell people stories, be a storyteller.
It's changing lives. I'm developing relationships with people that can maybe make their lives better.
The best part about this job is the people, whether it be the people you work with or the people you interact with day in and day out in the field or on a story. They're the ones that open up their doors to you. And for a brief moment, you have the opportunity to tell their story because it's interesting and people want to hear it.
We consider ourselves craftsmen. We consider ourselves artists because we try to craft something that we want the viewer to watch and to be interested in, and we take great pains to do that.
Just the variety, getting to see so many different things. You know, this is one of the few jobs where you get to meet people, new people every single day, and it's just one of the reasons I love it.
I would hate just sitting at a desk all day, maybe get a window to look out of. With me, I don't have any windows.
It's not mundane, it's not boring, you get to do things, you get to go places, you get to see different things, you get to travel. It's just fun.
If I live to be 99.9 years old, I'll be a shooter. I'll be standing there with a camera somehow or another. It may not be for news or something, but I guarantee you my grandchildren will be rolling their eyes going, God, Grandpa's taking more pictures of it. Because it's like, that's what you are. You get in it, so I'll be telling stories.